Okay, today we're going to go over the quad draw tool. So the quad draw tool is helpful if, for instance, you have a model that you made in ZBrush and you started it in ZBrush and the topology needs to get fixed. So a lot of the times people sculpt and they'll just kind of start out with Z-spheres or just start out with like a polysphere in ZBrush and kind of pull it out and kind of sketch out a character, and that might be a more intuitive way to work. But then when you work that way, you need the topology to get fixed after the fact. Or if you just kind of modeled it traditionally and you're not loving the topology and you want to make some fixes, this can also be a useful tool here. So to start off, I'm just going to import a model that's got a crazy amount of geometry that would need to get fixed here. So I'm just going to import this. This model came out of ZBrush, and so it's an OBJ. And so when I go to File, Import, and bring it in, it kind of comes in looking like this. A lot of times ZBrush models come in with their own kind of white shader on it. They also come in heavily faceted. It's kind of hard to tell because this model is so high resolution here, but they come in faceted. And so if you bring in a model from ZBrush, you might need to go up to Mesh Display and then down to Soften Edge right here. And I'm not sure if that was easy to see what that did there, because again, this model is so high resolution, but it just helps soften the edges between the faces. I'm also just going to quickly go to the Hypershade and create a Lambert material and assign that Lambert to the model there. So now we've got more of a traditional Lambert material on here. So this is the topology. It's pretty dense, so let's just imagine, that I sketched this out in ZBrush. The topology looks like this. I need to kind of get a new flow going here. So the technique for the quad draw tool is pretty simple. So first step, select the model in object mode, and then next press this magnet button right here. So it's the rightmost magnet button. And what this does is it makes the selected object alive. And so the whole idea of the quad draw tool is we're going to draw a new mesh on top of this mesh. And this magnet button, what it does is it kind of magnetizes it so that the new model that we make, just every vertex is magnetized and sticks onto this mesh right here. So when I draw a new mesh, I can't draw a new face that's like shooting out here. Like it's going to lock onto the mesh, which is really useful here. So I'm going to select this model, press this button right here, the magnet tool. So it made the demo head live. And then under the modeling toolkit to the right over here, if you just scroll down to the bottom right, there's this quad draw tool. So click that to activate the quad draw tool, and now we're ready to start. So the way the quad draw tool works is it's a pretty straightforward tool. If you ever need reminders on it, if you scrub down with it selected in the modeling toolkit down to keyboard mouse shortcuts, there is a list kind of reminding you of all the shortcuts here. So to kind of go through this here, the way I might start this model is you can kind of start in any area you want. A lot of people start around the eyes. So let's just kind of do that. So what I do here is I'm just doing a normal click on the mouse and just draw in 4 vertices where you want to draw in your first face. So you're just doing normal clicks to get those vertices. Then when you're ready to draw in the face, hold down Shift and then just click. So hold down Shift and do a normal click. Right now, the geometry of the original model is poking through because I made a really big face there and it's a rounded shape. But those 4 vertices are locked onto the model there. And so something I highly recommend when doing this method is to keep your model as simple as humanly possible when you're drawing out the edge flow. And it's really easy to fill in the lines after the fact. But if the mesh gets too dense, it can get really difficult to work with. So I'm going to draw in 2 more vertices right there and hold Shift. Click in again there. Draw 2 more, hold Shift, click it in. And so one thing you can do here, so I just quickly drew in 4 new faces. If I just do a normal click out here, I can grab the vertices and drag them around, and notice that they always stay locked onto the model there as I'm moving them around. I can also grab the edges and move those around. And so I'm going to start this mesh out just with a really, really simple form, because the main thing you want to kind of get right now is get the edge flow correct. And it's much easier to kind of concentrate on the edge flow when you're dealing with a simple model here. So I'll just continue to draw this out for one quick moment here. So I'm just again holding Shift and then clicking in between. So draw 1, 2 vertices, hold down Shift, normal click. And then here, since it detects that edge right there, I can just hold Shift and click in there. And then after this point, I can just kind of move these all into position here. And so that's kind of the main way to add in new geometry here. So another thing we can do here is we can extrude. So if you hold down Tab and then just do a normal click out of an edge like that, you can extrude an edge right there. So that's another way to add new geometry. So again, it's hold down Tab, which is going to be towards the top left of your keyboard, not all the way in the top left, but towards the top left, the Tab button, and then just pull it out. And here you can kind of shape it out. Another good trick here is, so that was a tab and a normal click, a normal left click. If you hold down Tab and do a middle mouse click, you can pull out a whole edge loop here. So let me just kind of show that a little bit better here. So I'm just going to do Tab, extrude out these 2 points just so that this comes out more cleanly here. So I want to, let's just say I want to extrude out these 4 edges right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold down Tab, and then do a middle mouse click, and then pull it out. So you can start to kind of pull out a lot of geometry really quickly here using this method. So the middle mouse click again is if you click down on the roller ball on your mouse keyboard, right? So just Tab, middle mouse click, and then from here, oops. I just, before I grabbed out a vertice or added a vertice back there, and I pressed Edit Undo to make sure to not follow through with that. So here, I can just kind of pull this out into position. And here's something that's really nice about the Quad Draw tool. Again, it's such a simple tool here, is if I just click, you see that it just magnetized and just kind of clicked in on itself there. So there's not a lot of crazy shortcuts and all that stuff that you need to memorize or anything like that. It's really intuitive once you start to get used to it here. So I'm going to do Tab and middle mouse click to kind of extrude out those 2 edges right there. Then I'll click them in, and they'll snap into place like that. So there's 2 other really helpful shortcuts here, and I would encourage you to hold off on using them right now. So just stick with what I've shown so far as you build out the first layer of your model. But down the road, if you hold Control, you can add edge loops really easily here. Right? So it's really easy just to kind of fill in your mesh once you kind of get this layer on. That's why I encourage you to work simply here. Because again, also, while you're kind of finding your edge flow, if you have 1,000 vertices that you're trying to pull around, it's just going to be, this process is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be here. So something that people do a lot of times on this is they'll kind of start around the eye, start to build out an edge loop there, and then maybe work on the nose next. So here I'm just kind of eyeing the center. I'll kind of show you my process for kind of getting this thing symmetrical again here momentarily. Oops. So there I was just clicking and holding shift and adding points in between. Down here for the bottom of the nose, I might hold tab. Let's see, I'll just do tab and a normal click just to extrude that down. Or you can just add a vertice there and hold shift. Click in there. And if I want to go ahead and add a new edge loop here, I can hold control and start to define this a little bit more. So these faces right here I want to have as the bottom of my nose. Oops. So I'm going to wait before I connect the nose and the eye here. So I just added 2 new vertices and then shift and click in there. And so let's just say for a moment that you're working on this and you're filling this out. And again, notice how simple I'm keeping this at this point here. And then just you kind of click out of it, you know, so you just, let's say you click the move tool here and we get out of it. You see here, you can see highlighted that I made that new mesh, this right there. It's showing up in my outliner as one object, which is great. I'll just rename this quad draw. And so if you click out of it, and again, I just pressed the select tool just then, you might wonder, okay, how do I kind of get this going again? So this root model right here, demo head, is still live, which is just Maya's word for has the magnet button selected. And so if you want to kind of start working on this again, the steps you need to go through here is you need to select that model, or make sure that your demo head or whatever it is selected in object mode. You make it live by pressing that magnet button that we had pressed before. And here's an important next step here. So select this model, the quad draw that we had been working on. So select that now in object mode, and then click quad draw. And now you can start working again. So the reason I kind of outline that is if we just click off of this and, you know, maybe you needed to work on something else, or maybe you saved for the day and kind of lost track or something like that. To pick this up again, if I select the model, then press magnet or the live tool, and then I forget to select the quad draw model that we'd started to create, and I just click quad draw, it's going to start making a new quad draw model right there. Do you see that? So it kind of ignores the original quad draw. So that's kind of the reason I wanted to show you that. So again, just to make this live again, or make this workable again, is I'll select the original head model with the high mesh. Step 1. Step 2, click the live button or the magnet button right here on the top right of the magnet icons. Then step 3, select your quad draw model that you had been working on. And then step 4, click quad draw, and you'll be good to go again. And so other than that, there's not a lot of magic tricks on this. This is just kind of adding in geometry. And something I really like about this process is you can kind of choose your own edge flow, and it's a really straightforward process here. Something I would recommend here is just work on one side of the model here. And if you hold, so what I want to talk about now is just kind of symmetry, kind of address the symmetry issue. So the way I approach symmetry in this kind of mode is the way I often approach symmetry here. So I'm just going to add a few more faces here just to show this. I'll kind of start my face edge loop. And again, I'm just doing normal clicks, adding a vertex, holding shift, clicking in there. Okay, so I press Q to kind of get out of it. Let's just say that I want this thing to be symmetrical here. This is a symmetrical model that we're working with. I clicked out of it by pressing the select button just to kind of move out of this thing. And then what I might do is I'll press this live button, the magnet button, just to turn off the live feature here. And that's kind of important to do here. And this is kind of imagining that we're further along in the model. So here, I'm just going to hide the original model that I was using. So let's say that I want this thing to be symmetrical. What I would just do is right click and go to vertex mode. Then I might switch to my front view here. You can see my model, the vertices aren't along the center here. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I'm in vertex mode. So right click vertex. I'm looking at my model in the front view. Then I'm going to drag and select the vertices that are in the center of the axis here. And then up here where it says XYZ, next to the render icon buttons. And again, if you can't find the XYZ buttons, it might just be because this tab is closed. So just look for these render icons right here, and then look for the tab and find XYZ. Where it says X, keep your eye on these vertices right here that are selected. I'm just going to type 0 and then return. And you see there it punches it to the center. So now when it comes time to mirror this thing, this will mirror over to the other side. Also notice that, again, this is kind of a helpful reason why I tend to work with low topology here during this stage, is just selecting those vertices and bring them to the center is a lot easier when you don't have 1,000 polygons to deal with here. And so kind of building out a face, I would recommend kind of starting with the eyes, nose, and the mouth, and kind of building out from there, and then just kind of having those edge loops kind of build out and meet with each other and fill out the whole model. For a model like this that's symmetrical, you can just work on one side. It doesn't matter if it's the left or the right. And then when you're done, you can just mirror it over and have it kind of go all the way on the other side. And so let me just kind of bring back the head here just to show one more thing here. So I'm going to make this live again. So I'm going to select that head, press the magnet button. Now select my quad draw model, then click quad draw, and then I'm back in business here. So I'm just going to kind of accelerate my speed here a little bit. And so you just kind of, as you're working, you can use the control button as you want to kind of start adding in more geometry here. For instance, the nose, I can see that that's rounded off, so that really needed some more topology there. And now I kind of have more topology in my nose than I do in the eyes, so I think it's okay to start kind of filling this in a little bit more now. So I'm just holding down the control button and just doing a normal click here. So you can kind of build this out to this level. And from here, remember you can also like snap vertices together here if you like. It just kind of depends on the edge flow that you want to try to get here. And so one other tool that's really helpful here is you can kind of see that this thing gets like my topology gets a little jagged as I'm working. And so if you hold down Shift, this shortcut is the same as Mudbox and ZBrush. The Shift button helps relax your geometry here, or your topology. So holding Shift, if your mesh is starting to kind of look a little uneven, you can just kind of hold down Shift and kind of clean up the flow a little bit. And so that becomes really useful in the later stages as you're kind of bringing this thing together. So there I was just adding new vertices, holding Shift, clicking in. I'm going to keep this geometry as simple as possible for a minute, and then I'll hold Control to kind of add in more topology here. So the idea here is just kind of start with those areas that need their own edge loops, which are the eyes, nose, and mouth, and then just build it out. And then when you have these models meet up with each other, you can kind of start to sort through how you want to best approach that at that point here. So I'm going to hold Control right there. Oops, I don't know. So I held Control and added a new edge loop there. I kind of lost my place by doing that. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. So I kind of lost my selection here, which is okay. So select the model, press the magnet tool, then select your quad draw model, click quad draw, and we're back in business here. And so here, just going to continue what I was doing there. I was trying to kind of add an edge loop going around that inner nose there. Oops. But you can see here, since I added more geometry, that it's starting to take me longer to kind of add this stuff in. Although the edge loops are still an option here for me. So if I hold down Tab, middle mouse click, whoa, too much. So I'm going to add a face there just to kind of get a bit of cutoff point. If I hold down Tab and middle mouse click, I can start to kind of get more going at once by clicking that out. And then again, it just snaps into place if you hold the vertex over the other vertex you want it to snap to here. And you can see here, just kind of watching this process work, the nose is going to be a little tricky, so I have to think about how to best approach this, but maybe something like that. We're going to need another edge loop coming through here soon. And I'm holding on Shift to relax that a little bit. And just mentally, I feel like this is can be like a much easier way to kind of sort through the topology puzzle. Because you can kind of start out around the eyes, nose, and mouth, and then just kind of get the topology you need, and then from there start to kind of use that control button to add more topology in there where you need it. And then other than that, you can kind of get away with just doing a really simple method, which is just clicking add new vertices, holding shift, clicking in there, and just doing it one at a time here. And then I can hold shift and relax this a little bit. And remember that you see that this model that I'm making, it's magnetized right onto the model there. So it's going to stay true to your model here and give you an accurate base mesh. So tab, middle mouse button, just to pull out that edge loop. When I pull out an edge loop like that, I make sure to have things be all quads. So just grab a vertice, just drag it into the same spot, and they'll snap together for you. These vertices kind of got off center a while back. And so you can see here that you can like sketch something out and end up with good topology and kind of end up with a character that's very animatable, or with, you know, edge flow where the eyes kind of behave the way you would like them to here. And so you can just kind of, you have multiple options here where you can just keep adding, once you kind of get your flow going through the whole model here, you can hold control and just start kind of doubling up the topology once you get far along. But again, I just encourage you to wait before doing the step that I'm showing right now. Don't rush into it. It can be tempting to rush into that step, but just try to give it as much time as you can before doing what I'm doing right here. Then you can hold shift to kind of relax this a little bit. When you hold shift, if you draw along the line that you're trying to relax, do you see that? So when I was doing shift and kind of going randomly, it can kind of do some good, but I think it's most helpful if you find a line that you want to relax a little bit here, and then just kind of draw along it. And so you can end up with a dense mesh here, and then when you click off of it, I'll turn off the magnet tool here and hide the original model by pressing H. You can see here that you end up with a model that can be accurate to your original model. And notice that when you draw the quad draw tool, this is kind of what I was talking about before when you're bringing in the ZBrush OBJ and it came in a little faceted. That's kind of what I mean right here by faceted. So to fix this one, you just hold down, press mesh display, and then soften edge right there. So mesh display and soften edge, and that smooths out your model right there. And so at this point, if you want even more geometry, you can just kind of go back into the quad draw tool and keep pressing control and adding in new edge loops as you need. Or you could press the smooth button here and kind of get a smoothed out version of this. It's up to you here, but just kind of fill in the whole model. And remember that you can do this trick here to kind of recenter it and mirror it over to the other side. So just holding shift, getting all those vertices that are supposed to be around the center. Then up here in this box, right next to the render icons where it says X, 0 return, punch it to the center, And then here, I would want to work on this model more, by the way. This is still kind of sloppy in the eyes and all that stuff. I just kind of want to mainly show you the techniques here. But to mirror this, just a reminder on how to do that is select what you have in object mode. Then next to, or under mesh, so not edit mesh or mesh tools, but mesh, mirror, and options. And in my case, I want to mirror this across the x-axis, so that's good. Negative direction is probably good. I have my models centered in the world grid, so world mode right there is good. So let's try this. And we can see here that it looks like the model mirrored well. And so whenever you mirror your model, just kind of look, keep an eye out for the vertices or edges along that center line right there. And just kind of make sure no funny business happens in there. And yeah, so that's the main process. The quad draw tool is a really straightforward tool in many ways here. And it's just a matter of getting used to it. And yeah, again, just work in low resolution, build out that. You see how easy it was for me to kind of add in a lot of resolution into the model really quickly just by using the control button and the smooth button to work through there. So I just encourage you when you're kind of building out your initial loops and all that stuff to keep your model simple. Oops, and I nearly forgot something that I wanted to show here. So, oh, and looking at this model, you see how it looks a little darker gray in here on the left side? If that happens to you, just select the model in object mode, go to mesh display and then soften edge. And that should fix that problem right there. So that's kind of a mirroring issue that happened there. So one last thing I want to show is I think I forgot to show that you can delete faces while using the quad draw tool. So I'm just going to bring back the original model, press this button right here to make it live, and now select the quad draw model and then press quad draw to kind of pull this back up. So here, to delete faces is super straightforward. Just hover your mouse over the face that you want to delete so that it turns red like that. So I'm not clicking it or anything like that. I'm just hovering the mouse over it, press delete, it's gone. And yeah, that's all there really is to it. It's deleting vertices and edges is less of a thing here, but you can just kind of delete faces. So just hover your mouse over it, delete. So if you make faces that you don't care for, you know, during the process right there, you can do that as well.